Hi, this topic is about the problem solving with the C++, Walter Savitch. We are going to be talking about section chapter 3, and I broke it down into smaller pieces. So this one, even though it's about using Boolean expression, I'm going to break it down into 3 sections, and I'm going to talk about it each different one. I'm not talking about every single thing that's in section 1. So students are required to read the rest of these things and bring the questions to me to discuss about it. I just talk about few things in this section. So what we learn in chapter 2, we learn about the if-else statement, we learn about the while statement, and we learn about do-while statement. In this chapter, we're going to get into those a little more deeper. So we're going to expand what we learn about if-else. We're going to expand a little more about the while statement. We're going to expand a little more about the do-while. And then we're going to add the switch and for statement in this chapter. Now, first thing I want to do is talk about the Boolean expression and how we are using it. You already used this in chapter 2. We're just adding a little more into it. So any Boolean expression is going to end up with either true or false. We don't have any other thing, just like in the court of law, either it's going to be true or it's going to be false. We cannot have some shade of true or some shade of false. It's either or. So we can think about it that is either true or false. The Boolean expression, so we can have binary. Binary means two, so we can have operators that accept two operands. That means these operators need two operands in both sides of it to be able to evaluate. And we can start with equal, that's going to return true if both sides of them are true. And then same goes for less than, greater than, less than or equal, greater than or equal. These are all binary operators that end up with being either true or false. And then we have our and, or, and not. So and, that's an operator for and operator for or, and operator for not. And we're going to get a little more talking about these operations. So we can have a variable defined as Boolean, and that's the way we're going to be defining it. And this variable, I call it condition, we can call it flag or done. You have seen those things, and that can be true or false. So if I have a variable called condition, this condition can have the values of either true or false. Now, before we get to this, I want to show you the display. Again, these are all coming from Savitch book edition 10. So we're looking at and or not. These are not just for computer science. You see this as a logical table, truth table. It can be in philosophy. It can be in math. It can be in a lot of different areas. So this is called truth table. So let's get in there. So when we're talking about truth table, let's start with and. So if I am using an and, that means both condition has to be true for the whole thing to be true. So you can look at here that the only time that this whole expression can be true, it's both of them are true. So if one of them is true and the other one is false, the whole thing becomes false. Or both of them is false, then the whole thing is false. So we can think about it that I would tell you that if you want full credit, do problem 1 and problem 2, problem 5, problem 2. So when I put the and here, that means you have to do both of them to get a full grade. If you miss one of them, you are not going to get full grade. So you have to do both. Okay, next one is or. Or says, okay, as far as you do one of them, I'm going to be okay. So as a child, go to your room, be quiet, or clean up your room. Or sit over here, be quiet, or go to your room and clean up your room. So you do either one of them, you'll be fine. So as far as the or goes, as far as one of them is true, the whole thing becomes true. So I don't need both of them to be true. I need only one of them to be true. So for the whole thing to be true. So if I look at an example, I'm going to say to get a full credit, do problem 1 or problem 5. So if you get one of these problems in, you're going to get a full credit. But if you're an overachiever or you want to be a good student and you want to do both of them, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to deduct point from you because you did both. So when I say do one or the other one, you can do just one of them and get full credit, or you can do both of them. So that's what it is. I want you to pay attention to this table. So in this table for the and, everything is false. Everything is false except this condition. On or table, everything is true except this condition. Just when you pay attention to this, we're going to come back and talk about it. Okay, so moving forward, we have something called not. So you have seen some children, some people, no matter what you do, they do it opposite. So it is going to be a little tricky. It is going to be a little hard to understand. And there is a section in your book to say, try to avoid it as much as possible. So we try not to use not as much as possible. And when we want to use it, then we got to think about what is it that we are doing. Okay, so for not, if the condition is true, it's going to make it false. If it's false, it's going to make it true. And let me tell you how we're going to talk about this. So I am saying, don't sleep in the class. For the whole thing to be true, if you are sleeping, then the don't is going to make it in a way that this whole thing is going to be true. If you're not sleeping and do not sleeping, is going to make the whole thing true. So that's the problem with the not, that can throw things off a little bit, and we got to pay attention to that a little bit. Okay, so let's look at this one right here. One of the things that can happen is I might have the not at the end of something. When we talk about this, that there is a truth table expression that if you take the logic class, we're going to talk mathematically about this. So one thing that you want to remember is if I have a not here and I want to apply to everything inside, my or becomes and. So this expression, if I want to apply the not inside, it's going to be the same as not y less than 3. I know how to type less than. And not y greater than 7. So if I want to take this not and apply into it, my ors becomes and, my ands becomes or. So keep that in mind. So if I want to use an expression that has multiple of these things, I'm going to put everything into the parentheses, and then I put a not at the end. Because if you want to apply the not to every single one of them, then the thinking is going to be different. So you would not be thinking about this and not around it. What you're thinking over here, it says not y less than 3 or y greater than 7. So one way you want to think about it is, okay, am I thinking of, if you're thinking about if not y less than 3 and y greater than 7. So those conditions are going to be mixing it up. So we need to pay attention, practice, practice, practice to get to understand this. So let's go over this, see what happens with what we have over here. So what we're going to do, because we have a parentheses, we're going to do inside first. Remember, if we're going to talk about the order of precedence, but if you remember from your math, please excuse my Aunt Sally. So you would start the parentheses, the highest one. So you're always going to do inside the parentheses first. So if I put 8 for y, the first one, y less than 3, is that going to be false or is it going to be true? Is 8 less than 3 or not? So 8 is not less than 3, so the first one becomes false. Y is 8. 8 is greater than 7, that becomes true. So this is what I have. So this is going to be false, this is going to be true. Then I'm going to be looking at this expression. Remember the table that we talked about? For or, as far as I have a true, the whole thing becomes true. So for the or, as far as I have one true, as far as I have one true, the whole thing becomes true. So this whole thing becomes true. So, and again, because I have parentheses, I'm doing inside the parentheses first. And then the not is going to change my true to false. Okay, so that's what I have here. And let me see if I have something else after this. So that's for here. And I'm going to have videos for the other sections. So I'm going to stop right here.